Hello everyone and welcome to Helix Plays Games. My name is Richie and joining me this week is the host of the Clickercast at CyberChris2077.
Hello everyone.
Mr. Chris. And also Mr. Rob.
Just a regular hello from me.
I want a better hello from you, Rob. Give me a better hello.
No,
our loyal viewers deserve a better hello.
Okay. You'll get what you're given and like it, okay, so.
Oh, well, fine then. Maybe
like
I should just tell you.
Staff.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. But what else have we got going on for you this week? We have Microsoft laying off 10,000 employees. My first impressions of Persona 3 and 4. And have you ever wanted to power wash Croft Manor? All that and much, much more on this week's XPass. But before we get into it, Chris and Rob are both being forced to mute because I kept interrupting me while I was trying to do the housekeeping section. So if you do like the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications turned on so you're kept in the loop of all our great content here at Helix Plays Games, such as Talking the PS, where every single Tuesday we break down all the PlayStation news happening. We have our Clickercast where we break down HBO's The Last of Us live at 8 p.m. GMT, and Chris is very much trying to distract me there.
No,
8 p.m.
It's the Clickercast. It's like it's the
Oh,
thing.
I thought you were just
That's
trying
what
to
it is.
distract me.
No,
Right,
I was
yeah.
just doing a little dance for your enjoyment. That's like the Clickercast thing.
All right, yeah. 8 p.m. GMT, Clickercast live on YouTube. We'll see you in the chat for that one. Our live streams every single Thursday, where most recently you played Back for Blood. And over the weekend, I dropped two first looks at Persona 4 Portable and Persona 4 Golden. Both of them played by on XPass and Xbox Game Pass, and we'll talk a bit about them in a little bit. So, Chris, you got your microphone turned on. You're behaving yourself now.
I've calmed down now.
Yeah. So what have you been playing?
More of The Witcher 3 this past week. I'm well aware we've got a ton of Game Pass games that have dropped, but none of them really tickle my fancy. I'm holding out for Age of Empires console and cloud edition.
We're talking about
in the meantime,
bit.
I jumped back into The Witcher, going on my adventures with Geralt and getting familiar with it, enjoying it. Runs good.
Yeah. We talk a bit about more of that tomorrow on Talking the PS. So if you want to know Chris's impressions so far.
Yeah, I will say as well, there is I don't know if you guys noticed, there's a boxed next-gen version of The Witcher 3 coming out. So like an actual physical copy that they've announced this past week. And weirdly enough, they're keeping the same box art from the Game of the Year edition from like 2015. They're just not, it's like the same pose of Geralt, but with all like the new awards, like winner of 10,000 awards, like on the side instead of Game of the Year. I think you've got an opportunity to repackage it in a totally next gen in Series X and PS5, and you opt for the exact same cover art.
Yeah, but like, for the effort it takes to do it, to get more sales, right? Like,
I just think something jazzier. Like you see it with books and not such, where they kind of fold in, like there's a TV counterpart, they'll give it a new skin and go, oh look, Henry Cavill's on the front of the Witcher series, and then for the game they're just like, we don't have any other imagery of our main protagonist of this whole series.
It almost make it a bit of a more of a collectible if they change the art.
Yeah. Just
so people who have the original one might double dip, but I don't think CG Projekt Red are that company that they want you to double dip. That's why I think they've been very much not, even when PlayStation's like, you have to pay for the upgrades, CG Projekt Red's like, no you don't.
It's just an odd choice from a visual standpoint, because it's weird.
Yeah, alright. Rob, anything interesting?
A lot of it's been PlayStation based. The only other game I actually played this week.
Not in this podcast.
Not in this podcast, no. Does anybody remember a game called Warzone 2100?
I think
I vaguely recall
a demo of it.
It was like a 90s kind of. It was one of the first things where like you build your own kind of like the little tank thing almost, and like you're like a tank designer, and like it was like set in like a post-apocalyptic world. And it was, I don't know why I decided to play it. I just did.
Command and Conquer is why you decided to play it, because it looks exactly like bits of Command and Conquer.
It is a little bit, yeah, but it's more kind of like, it was the first kind of like 3D game, I guess, I ever played. and you could like choose when you build your tanks. You could choose like what weapons they had and like what tracks they had and stuff like this.
I remember this game. This game was awesome. This game, they should need to remake this game. This game needs a remake, like straight up.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So I put a bit of time into that. But I don't know why. As I say,
is that on Game Pass?
No, I had to go on the do you know, like the like abandonware websites where it's like old abandoned games.
Yeah, it's not in circulation anymore. I'm pretty sure I had it on a PlayStation demo disc.
I wonder if they're good old games.
I had it on PC and like it came in like a massive box like this with like with something. That's just how you used to buy PC games.
Yeah, big cardboard box for some reason. It's all the installation rules that had to come with it. I think back in the day, Windows 98.
Potentially, yeah. But yeah, it was a good little game.
It might be free on Steam.
Oh, okay.
Free on Steam.
I haven't checked. I just seen a forum that people saying it's free on Steam.
Well, what's on 2100? Hey, we're not far off 2100. We might be looking
that's a sad
to see the year
2100. Verified, it is free on Steam.
Yeah,
so you don't need to go to dodgy abandonware websites. You can just get it on Steam.
Yeah, but for anybody who's kind of in the our like kind of early 30s age group who likes an RTS game from the past, then definitely check this out.
Like our entire demographic. I might add it to my library as well for a bit of nostalgia. You mentioned I know you were playing Command & Conquer last week, Rob. Have you ever checked out Tiberian Wars as well?
Oh yeah. It was like it's kind of a mid-tier kind of Command & Conquer title for me, but yeah, it's definitely got some enjoyable elements to it.
So I feel like I learned about it after Red Alert 2. So it was like almost like a weird going back in time to an older game, but it's the same, but lots of more
like the Red Alert series has always been my mainstay with the franchise. But yeah, need a number 4. That's what we need. Well, I guess you can't really do it now.
Can't you?
I think it's problematic to have like every female in that game. Ends up wanting to have sex with you because you were such a good commander. Like Eva, whatever she's called. Like Tanya.
You can modernize things a bit, like while still keeping the core gameplay.
It's like, you're a special operative.
Yeah.
You're a special operative now. He's your tiny tank top.
It's 2010.
It's your classic, almost like your classic like RPG thing. It's like, oh, the guy, he's massive plate mail armor, women, tiny bikini, equal defense. Yeah.
Definitely games made for teenage boys, as was the entire 90s kind of game scene, I guess.
It's available on Origin right now. It takes place in 2062.
Terrifyingly close.
No, it is, yeah.
Interesting. But before we actually get into the news of the show, I think I'd like to just take a moment to say goodbye to Google Stadia. Because, I mean, it's the origins of the channel. I mean, XPass actually replaced Sounds of Stadia, our weekly Stadia podcast, which literally is what we started our content creation journey with. And this is kind of like, the first week where Stadia is no longer a thing.
I know you mentioned about games we're playing there as well. I did have a hankering last night to play a Worm game.
Yeah.
Just so I had a spare like 20 minutes.
I played a little bit of Worm game since our stream, but not much.
Yeah. It was like, oh well, what could it be?
I had this thing where actually I just went through my library and I didn't play anything. I was just looking through the game list and going, kind of almost like reminiscing about some of the games that I'd really enjoyed over the years, over the last 3 years with Google Stadia.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Sad times. Good times. Spiritual successor, XPass.
And I hope everyone who's affected who works there lands on their feet.
Yeah, because not only have we got some news about Microsoft layoff, but Google just laid off like 10,000 people as well.
Alphabet have as well.
Collectively, 20,000 people in the tech industry lost their jobs within like 48 hours, which is like, considering the amount of money these companies have, it's crazy how they can sustain.
Do you want to introduce us to the news, then we can just dive straight into that topic?
Yeah, I guess I can do. The excellently exuberant Excavated Xbox expose, aka The news.
The news. And as always, our news is brought to you by our Helix Heroes, which you can become for as little as 99p, where you get early access to Talking the PS. You get custom emojis, badges next to your name in chat. And sometimes we do throw more early content to you. I didn't with Persona 3 and 4. I did consider it, but I just wanted to get them out for everyone. But yeah. So first topic of the week, tech layoffs. Oh, Chris, you were just about to talk about Google.
Just shit, isn't it, really, all around? Microsoft laying off 10,000 people, Alphabet/Google laying off 10,000 people from industries that it probably had the most successful time over the last few years with the pandemic and everyone working from home and technology being embraced. Is we suddenly find out, they're just basically trimming the fat, supposedly, from every division possible. And yeah, it's crazy. There's people we know from, again, our time with Google Stadia who are directly impacted by this. And hopefully all these people land on their feet. They're all obviously successful in their own right to find their new jobs. But it just seems like no one is free from this kind of world we live in right now with people looking to trim money, businesses and families and stuff alone. But it's a sad time. But to focus on the Microsoft one, it seems to be impacting other gaming divisions, their publication companies and everyone and everything in between. So I guess in terms of video games, it's crazy thing that happens because there's so much money made there, and yet they're not averse to it.
Yeah, what I struggle to get my head around is how a business can lay off 10,000 people. I know businesses, sometimes you go through these periods of consolidation where you maybe need to trim the fat out of a team. Things change, especially when in game development, things are very much project based. So if people might be brought on for a project, and at the end of the project you no longer need someone filling that role, or the next project doesn't really, there's stuff like that can happen. But to 10,000 people, it just feels like a very arbitrary, cold, calculated, we just need to cut costs, get rid of 10,000 people, rather than an intelligent, targeted, like, let's review what each team needs, trim the fat. It just seems like kill, just get rid.
Yeah, I mean, they're not killing them, to be fair, but yeah, it seems getting rid of this many people. So again, it happens in every industry where it happens in the one I work in, it happens in the fields that my parents work in. It seems like companies are just cutting budget requirements and setting roles and expecting other people to pick up the slack, where you've got people who it was never part of their job description, doing things that their boss used to do, but their boss has been laid off, or vice versa, and responsibilities are all dished out. The Microsoft CEO did come out and say that this apparently only classes as 5% of the company's total headcount, which just shows you how big of a company Microsoft are. At 10,000 is only 5%, but it's 10,000 individuals and lives and families and livelihoods that are impacted by this. And it's just crazy thing a company is cash rich as Microsoft can't sustain it a little bit more. But I guess it's like, is that just like companies like growing to such a size that it becomes unmanageable?
Well, this is what I think. Go for it, Rob.
Okay, I was going to say, like, the thing with Microsoft is they kind of, as a business, they go through these like they're a bit rubbish at kind of predicting trends and kind of forecasting for like kind of global kind of trading periods. So for context, like there was a kind of a big stock market crash in 2015, and that kind of led to them hacking about a similar number of employees around that time. And the year before that, they'd increased their headcount by 30%. So like they expanded really quickly, didn't see like turbulent times coming, and then had to cull. And the same things kind of happened here. So in 2022, they hired, like, their workforce increased by kind of like 20-something%, which kind of, once they've been hit this year, they've had to really kind of pull back on that. And it's a bit of a trend with Microsoft. They always kind of do it. They'll overinflate, and then instead of being a bit more conservative and actually thinking about people's livelihoods, like what would happen to them and like these new employees, they just tend to overinflate and then cull again, and it's really annoying.
I mean, I mentioned it, just like when it's the numbers like 10,000 seems to just an almost arbitrary number. They're not looking at the needs of the teams, and it's just like get rid of this number of people. It very much feels like this is done by a guy on a spreadsheet who doesn't necessarily know what these jobs are and the functions of these people.
No, not at all.
And that they're talking about how they hope that this will make them like stronger going forwards. Like, but this just for me just feels like mismanagement at a very senior level. Like,
So
you mentioned
I've seen
like
it happen a lot.
Taking
So,
on
like-
probably way too many people, and the result of that they have to cut people. But if you're constantly going through that cycle, I can't see that as anything other than mismanagement. To be honest, I'm
there's
only
two
used to
elements to
working
it.
in
There's a bit
small
of
businesses, so
Yeah, there's a bit of
Yeah.
mismanagement there. Like obviously, like a company the size of like Microsoft, like they're a lot less agile than say like a company I work with, for example, and when I do my consulting and things like that. So there's an element where they'll get carried along because they have a bigger sale, and like if you imagine like the wind is the general state of the world and things like that, so they do get carried along bigger. But I've seen it a lot since like the pandemic's kind of eased off, so a lot of people who followed for a long time will know I kind of work in e-commerce and things like that, and all the companies I've come across saw like that similar boom during the pandemic because you couldn't spend money in retail or in restaurants or hospitality or anything like that, so you spent it online. So all these companies kind of expanded, thinking like this spike would just continue going up, and this year you've really seen like a correction, and they haven't like anticipated.
Again, I'd say that's a bit of mismanagement. You can look and go, okay, we can ride the spike, get us to a level, but you must, if in e-commerce, like, if you're being a bit thinking pragmatically, you'd be looking at, we're going to get the spike, we can ride the wave a bit, but you should also be expecting, like, this is a bizarre situation. Once this has gone off, we might retain more of the market share than we did. Brick and mortar stores might probably lose out in market share, but they're not going to be just completely killed off.
Oh, true. But the issue is you can't ride the wave unless you hire other people to kind of ship your orders out and do all that stuff. So I can see why it's happening, and better plan. And to be fair, Microsoft could have rolled this out without having to cull people. They're doing it because they have to.
Yeah. There's a big element of business as well as that, because they're in technology. There's always new things on the horizon. Like they're always having to research and develop for new products and things that just won't take off. And kind of like if we reflect back on Google and Stadia, like they laid hundreds of people off as well because they tried something. They invested a lot of money into it. It didn't work out, or it didn't show profitability within 3 years, so they pulled the plug on it. Then all those people, realistically, they've got no purpose of being there anymore because the project doesn't exist. And I think a lot of turnover with Microsoft will be, look at this cool, interesting thing, whether it's droneware or security cameras or mobile phones again or whatever they're working in. They build up a team from scratch, like Rob said. They have to get specific expertise in. But then the reality is they can't just move them onto a different project because their skills don't transcend across to other areas of the business. So then when someone on a spreadsheet, like Rob said, the size of Microsoft, the bean counter who's doing all the finances doesn't know the expertise or skill of these 10,000 people, but there has to be a line drawn somewhere. And evidently they just crunch the numbers and go out to the teams and say, who can we get rid of within these teams? We'll keep up the same production rate. And it's cold business, and it sucks, but it does happen. Like Rob said, you're going to have growth, but you're going to have that shrinkage before the next big thing comes along, and no one can predict the future. That's the reality.
Yeah,
So
like who could have imagined like the Ukraine situation? Obviously, like you can look to the past and think, maybe this could have happened, but ultimately that's a massive event which you can't really forecast for. And the same way the pandemic was, I guess. So I'm a bit more forgiving of them in this situation. But it still fucking sucks for the people on the ground, right?
Absolutely, 100%. I think for me, only really ever working in small businesses, I kind of look at it and go, this feels just very much cold, calculated, just blanket sackings across the board, rather than like a strategic, intelligent, targeted redundancy. It's like, where's the fat in each team that we can cut? It's just to get rid of people's jobs. I get the overarching thing of Microsoft as a corporation doing this, but it feels like you should. I don't know. I feel like if I was in that position, I'd be like, right, we need to cut 10,000 jobs. You go to the heads of the individual teams and go, right, where can you save money? Where can you save money? And rather than just going get rid of people, because this does actually
we don't
impact.
know that's not happening. Like,
that's true.
It's hard to know kind of how it's working, but
Yeah.
It's just,
I mean, it does say they all leave with severance packages, healthcare, and stock investment for 6 months and 60 days notice before termination. So it's not like Elon Musk's just coming in there and firing everyone left, right, and center who looks at them funny. It's genuine. Like they'll have to do their due diligence legally, and I guess just 10,000. Just the scale of it. I think that's scary.
6 month severance is on surface seems quite good, but when you're basically one of 10,000 people who've just left the job working in a similar industry, and that's before you even mention other tech companies who lost their jobs, the amount of competition for jobs is massive now because of this.
I mean, tech as a sector has been overinflated for a hell of a long time anyway. So like, I can all of this goes in cycles, right? It's like going to the gym where you try and like transform your appearance. Like you have to like bulk up, eat a lot of food, gain a bit of fat, and then like you go through a phase of like leaning out, and then
I was doing that. I went through
that type of thing.
I was bulking for about 33 years.
But again, now you're culling people, Richie.
Hopefully for another 33 years.
Yeah, just think of like this, like your kind of fat cells as like staff, and you might be a bit more forgiving on Microsoft kind of taking people out of it.
This went into an odd metaphor.
We should touch on actually the reason we're talking about this, because it does actually impact the Microsoft gaming divisions, because we know Bethesda, the Coalition, and 343 Industries have all definitely been affected by these, and reports suggest 343 has been hit especially hard. With like, I think I'm looking for the name of who's the creative head, Joseph Staten, head of creative, and the head of creative on Halo Infinite will be leaving 343 Industries but stay within Xbox. So
there's an odd factor that comes into the video game world, because we know about Bethesda being part of Microsoft. Like, the reality is there'll have been a lot of duplication of job roles with that merger, where people who had jobs at Bethesda, they already existed at Microsoft. So you've kind of got that consolidation moment when two, say, line managers do the exact same thing, but there's only one team to manage. So there will have been that kind of crossover where there was inevitably going to be losses with any merger, because that's the nature of it. In terms of video games, you've also got that twofold hit of, if a game doesn't perform, someone has to kind of be reviewed for that and say like, well, why didn't this game hit this standard? Why aren't we seeing the return of investment on this? And as people who are like new to the Xbox ecosystem, 343 is basically potentially like going to be thrown under the bus, like sacrificed to the wolves kind of thing, as Halo Infinite wasn't received as well as it should have been. It's getting a lot of backlash from its hardcore fan base. And what do we do next? And it seems to be that 343 is not going to be the lead on the next Halo game. And there's going to be a big shake-up with it, because I think Infinite, being the flagship franchise for Xbox, not landing the way it was is crazy to say, but like, is it still classed? It's like, it's such a hot property for Microsoft and Xbox as the figurehead. It cannot go wrong, and it has gone wrong. And I think the patience is starting to run out.
Are they approaching with Halo more misses than hits?
I wouldn't want to comment as someone who's not played them.
That is. I'm going to put that question at the comments, if like you've been with the Xbox ecosystem longer than we have, because I know things like Halo in the Xbox and Xbox 360 era seem to be like the hot property in first-person shooters. Yeah. Then I basically had nothing about it, while admittedly not an Xbox person at the time, during the Xbox One generation. And Halo Infinite seems to have mixed reviews. I don't think it's like reviewed terribly.
How many big streamers actively stream Halo multiplayer?
None that I'm aware of.
They don't?
I don't know.
It's like its position as a first-person shooter kind of hot property is just gone.
Yeah. My perception is it's been on a slow decline for years, since like their initial 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I think Halo Infinite was meant to be a resurgence, a return to form, but then it just, I mean, if you remember, that game actually got delayed because it looked terribly initially.
Yeah, and they did say they were going to have a 10-year plan for Halo Infinite. That's why it wasn't a numbered entry, because they were like, this is going to be Halo for the foreseeable, and we'll add content and passes and maps and such. And then, because of the way the maps came out, the season content that dropped before Christmas was like very threadbare, and yeah, now like leadership are leaving, and you really do have to question like who is it? And now they have Bethesda. In all honesty, I think it would be a really good PR move to shift Halo and give it to like id Software instead. It's like you've got someone who's like
I can get behind it.
It was just so tried and tested in making terrific first-person shooters, and we've seen that in the recent releases of Doom. Like you own them now.
Oh, is it Machine Games that makes Wolfenstein?
Wolfenstein, yeah, but they're doing Indiana Jones, so they're preoccupied.
Yeah.
But like we had Doom Eternal came out like a year or so ago. I feel like you're not shipping them out to a third-party company. You literally have an in-house team of experts ready to go.
Doom
and
Eternal will be about 3 years, Chris. Doom Eternal is meant to be a CD launch title.
I'd say last year.
Yeah, you said a year or so ago. It's like closer to 3.
Yeah. So I mean, you've got the team there, and I just think it gives 343 maybe an easy out while they can.
Do you have to admit that you're just abandoning Halo Infinite then in that plan?
No, I don't think they can do that. I think they have to commit to Halo Infinite, but I do think they need another entry to do it. 343 was built to make Halo. That's the questionable thing. It's like their sole purpose was Halo, and they haven't. When they took over from Bungie, they've seemingly not done it right. But again, it's hard to say, having not played or enjoyed them. I don't really know the ins and outs. I just go off what I hear and read out there in the world, and it's a shame.
Again, this is a franchise that revolutionized the first-person shooter genre, especially in multiplayer. It's like it feels like they should be. It doesn't feel like one of them franchise where you go, you know what, maybe it's time to sunset this, or at least put it aside for a while, then have a resurgence in 10 years. It feels like you do need to kind of find a way, find that bottle, that magic again, because it feels like they just need to find that special thing. And maybe a change in developer is the answer.
Yeah, I think it would just shake it up. But back to the layoffs, what you said, like the 343 in particular, it's up to a third of their workforce that are getting laid off. So within that 5% of Microsoft in total, that's a third of their team going, which if they're supposed to be working on the next Halo thing, reducing your team by a third is not a good look if you're wanting a better outcome.
If the reports are right and that they are losing Halo for future development of future games, then like slashing your team in that kind of way, so it probably then just becomes a Halo Infinite support studio for now.
Pretty much, yeah.
Do you need to have any people actively developing a new game from the ground up? You don't need as many people to maintain and release new content for a game that already exists, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so they just become an Infinite support studio while someone else works on the next mainline entry. Seems to be what we're getting from this. Maybe,
you do give it to id, and you make 343 a support studio for id for that period. So maybe, like, you're not the lead on it, but you're still going to be working on it.
Potentially. But it's all definitely a shake-up, and I think Xbox fans will agree that it's probably been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And I guess we hope with all these acquisitions is that just Microsoft really puts some energy and focus into some fresh new IP, because tomorrow on Talking the PS, we gush over Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon Zero Dawn, and they're like franchises that didn't exist 10 years ago. And realistically, how long can you keep flogging this Halo horse? Like, they've got like Senua, Hellblade and such, but like Microsoft, I really just want them to come out fresh with some new hot things this generation. That really makes me sit up and go, oh,
there's only been one Hellblade. Awesome. There's only been one Hellblade game so far, isn't there? So the second one could be that kind of, now Game Pass exists.
Mm-hmm. And I think it will be.
More people going to play it. This could be like, Hellblade could become like into that category. It very much has the potential by the looks of it.
And there is that expectation. Like, by the end of this year, do either of you two think that Starfield has the chance to be Microsoft's flagship game, like above Halo? Because all the hype behind it seemingly is pointing towards, like, do more people care about Starfield than Halo if you're an Xbox fan at the end of this year? Forget nostalgia. Does Halo Infinite beat out Starfield in terms of conversation and popularity?
Not on any day of the week.
Yeah.
Which is mad to say, right?
Yeah.
Like that's crazy to think that. Like, Halo is Halo, but is it just like running on fumes now?
The shine's very much come off the IP, and they need to find a way to put it back on. But changing the studio, give a new team a chance to do something, I think could be what it needs, and I just hope they give whoever ends up developing the next Halo game the time and support that they need to absolutely nail it, and no more releasing trailers where like character models look like kind of crummy, and no more cutting expected features, promising the co-op campaign, promising it'll be there at launch, okay, no, it'll become later, then cancelling it. It's all things like that like haven't been done well for Halo.
That's the big conclusion, isn't it? This stuff happens at most game developers, but because it's Halo and because it's Microsoft and its status is all eyes are scrutinized like 10 times over.
It feels a bit. It's got something of the cyberpunks about Halo Infinite, to be honest, where it probably came out a lot earlier than it should have done.
But at the same time, it should have came out when it was supposed to, and it should have worked because they had years to develop it.
Yeah.
But then that's the weight on the shoulders of it has to be good. So every time it goes into like its yearly review and Phil Spencer and the team get together, they go, this needs to be better, guys. This is Halo. And they go, okay, take it away for another year. Come back, still not bad. Like, you can only delay stuff for so long before
Ubisoft twice, really, didn't they? With the Master Chief Collection and Infinite, like, can't risk the third time.
I think they fixed the Master Chief Collection eventually.
They did.
Yeah, but that's the key word. Fixed eventually is.
Yeah, it comes back to the classic Shigeru Miyamoto quote about games like a good game is always good, but bad games or whatever. I can't remember the quote off the top of my head, but like, don't release a game till it's ready. And to be honest, Nintendo should look at themselves on that, because Pokemon Violet and Scarlet shouldn't be out yet.
It's the kind of rising status of like AAA game development is not easy. It's not cheap. It takes a long time. It comes with a lot of risks. And then at the end of the day, you could finally release it into the wild and it bombs like who knows what. And your money, your investment, all that time has just been an absolute waste almost. And it's not cheap. It's not cheap.
It's not.
No, absolutely not.
Which I guess feeds back into why people get laid off and budgets are cut. Which it's a vicious cycle, but you need success to spurn more success.
Yeah, but I think we agree. Like, I'd like to see some new, interesting like IP come out from Microsoft. They still feel like they're leaning on old past glories. Like there's new Fable game coming in the works. Halo. I wouldn't be surprised if a new Gears game gets announced not for long off. Like, although Coalition has been hit by this as well, but seemingly not as bad as 343. It feels like they need to break out from that wheelhouse, but I mean they are trying, because moving on to our next story, Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden both came to Game Pass, and we have first looks of them on our channel. Since I think I'm the only one interested in these games, I will keep this fairly brief. I like them both. I think I'm vibing closer with the story of 3 than 4. However, I think 4 is a better game. 3 is a bit point and click adventure almost, where 4 just go into more 3D models. I mean, the games don't look great, but Persona 3 Portable is a PSP game and Persona 4 Golden is a Vita game, and I think that is just something you have to just accept when you're playing them. But it was quite interesting.
For these, like, it's
no free in Game Pass. Like, yeah. I mean, if you're interested in either of these games, I'd recommend you play Persona 5. If you have played Persona 5, then, well, you don't really need me to recommend them.
Yeah, and you're talking about like absolute JRPG classics. We've say about difference in tactics and market IP, but Persona, like the JRPGs moving on to Xbox, is one of the more positive moves they've done in recent years. Kind of opening the doors up to that part of the world and bringing those games to Microsoft and Xbox consoles, because they've not had them in the past. And even though they are older games, like Persona 4 Golden, again, is so well revered. When Sony announced that they were going to shut down the PlayStation Vita store, I have no intention of really playing the game, but I went and bought Persona 4 Golden for the Vita because it's like one of the highest revered portable games of all time. And I thought, you know what, even if that off chance I want to play it, I want it on my Vita as like just to be sat there waiting for me for that one day I get 120 hours of my life to put free in it, which I'm well aware it's probably
That's
never
not going to happen, Chris.
Probably never.
No,
but when it was like £12, it was like, you know what, the shop's closing down, I want to own it. Everyone who's got a Vita says Persona 4 Golden, so
yeah, these games are not for you, Chris.
I don't expect them to be, but there's that part of me which was like, it might be though. It might be.
Check back in like 18 and a half years, maybe, Chris. Okay.
Yeah.
If you had the urge to play a Persona game, if you haven't played any Persona games, I would strongly recommend you try Persona 5 first, probably 5 Royale, because I think you can actually. I did notice there's certain like tropes in the series which I didn't, because I'd only played Persona 5. I didn't know there were tropes. So I've picked up on a few of them things that I carry. Oh yeah, there's certain things that occur in every single game. But I think Persona 5 is the strongest of the titles, which is what you would expect, to be honest. And I mean, I've only played about an hour and a half of 3 and 4, but I think the story of 5 is probably better as well.
I mean, you'd expect that, wouldn't you? Being a more
story. It's like each of them taking very different stories, different vibes. But I think for me, yeah, I'd try. If you're interested in Persona and you haven't played 5, try 5. If you have played 5, do what I did. The reason I did 2 first looks is because I didn't know which one I wanted to have a go at first, and I think I'm leaning to 3, even though I think the gameplay is better than Info.
Right. Have you come across any of the misogyny or homophobia that's apparently rife in the
I was going to touch on that. 4 especially feels very dated, to be honest, in some points. There's an interesting Eurogame article I recommend people go and read. There is some things like pretty much one of the female characters, because you're set in like a high school, so you're looking like these are like late teenagers, and some of the comments from teachers and like one girl, she got hit on twice in the space of like a single day. Like it's a very horny game in that sense. Like,
I'm looking at one of the screenshots now that says like Yukiko-san is back. That was good. I'm glad the only cutie in the class was able to return. Wouldn't you guys agree? It's like that's the teacher talking to the students right there. This is just wrong on so many levels.
There's so many safeguarding issues around.
The main teacher for the class you're in is a straight up dickhead. Like
and paedophile by the sounds of it.
Maybe not an actual paedophile. There's nothing I've played of the game that suggests
he has
done anything. I don't know.
The big boss at the end.
He should not be working as a teacher, put it that way, in my opinion. Like, he's very much got a chip on his shoulder about pretty much everything. There's also stuff like I haven't played in the game that potentially like problematic things when it comes to homosexuality and stuff. There could be potential issues in the game for a new audience. I mean, so take it as you will. I really don't know. I think that's the sort of stuff you kind of have to make your own judgment on. But
again, with the concept of like time, we all know stuff was different back in the day. Just like if we go back to like the 1950s and 60s, like women were treated differently and stuff, and amongst the other far worse things. And
if this was a brand new game, I would say absolutely never touch this thing based on the Eurogamer review. However, with it being, if you are able to kind of go, this is a product of its time, I don't agree with things like the representation or how characters act, but I am playing this as with that understanding. Fine, but if you're also like, no way in hell I'm touching this, I think that's fine as well. Again, you need that sort of stuff. I think you have to make your own what sits well with you or not.
Also, you have to remember as well, different countries
culture.
and different cultures, like they progress on different social issues at different times and at different paces. Like, there's
different priorities and stuff.
Yeah.
Based on like the culture, like some countries are like very prude. Like I think America's quite prudish with like sex stuff, where they seem to be quite okay with violence. Yeah, and where some countries are like, nah, sex is fine, but don't do any violence. Different cultures.
Yeah, so it's like even like American TV, you can gut someone with like an AR-15, but like show like more than 3 seconds of tit, and it's like no, it's done.
Yeah, Game of Thrones changed all that. Yeah, and well aware, I just offended a lot of people by dropping that C-bomb randomly in the middle of a Persona conversation as well.
Yeah, it's fine. This is definitely I'm definitely going to flag this as like strong language.
Apologies.
If you thought that was offensive, listen to this. Richie, just put a big bleep in there.
Can you make a note in the doctor to remind me on, because I'll forget.
Oh, hang on.
41 minutes.
Yeah.
41, 42 minutes.
Right,
so the ball's definitely in their court when it comes to if you play it, Richie.
Yeah, kind of make your own decisions on it. I'm vibing a bit more with the story of 3 rather than 4. But yeah. Well, I think let's move on and have a rant about Ubisoft. So let's start with Yves Guillemot. We talked about him last week, about his, when I find the article, his comments regarding the balls in your court. Basically, I'll quote directly from this, reading from gamesindustry.biz. The ball is in your court to deliver this lineup on time and at expected level of quality and show everyone what we are capable of achieving. That's Yves Guillemot to his staff. Anyone want to touch on that before we go further?
Should I maybe I'll just say something quick because at a much smaller scale, I've been in charge of running a business and in a group of people with complete autonomy as an owner would have. Anything you do as a CEO or a managing director or an owner, you have a vision and then you take stock of what resource you have, whether that be kind of what talent you have, what people you have, how much time they have, and kind of all that type of things. And your only job is to make best use of that resource to enact your vision. And I don't think he's had a proper vision for Ubisoft for a hell of a long time. And B, I don't think he's enabling his staff and kind of his resources to enact that vision. So from my definition of what a leader should be, he fails on both parts. And
then he's also not taking any form of accountability for it.
Yeah. Ultimately, he has the power to change anything he wants in that business.
Well, my biggest criticism of Ubisoft over the years is Ubisoft feel like all the games are just manufactured. They don't feel like they're developed. They're not doing anything interesting. It's off a production line is how I refer to Ubisoft games. They seem content to put 7s and 8s out constantly. And then in the multiplayer space, it just tends to be the following trends, but 5 years too late. And then put a 7 or 8 out when there's 9s and 10s in that space. Yeah,
and it's his job to kind of figure out what.
Yeah.
He has to match his business to the industry and to the audience, and he just seemingly can't do it. And is lashing out like a dick.
Yeah, it's the production line is no longer functioning because the industry's moved on. He's looking at this production line he's built and going, "Why aren't people happy with what's coming off? It must be my developers."
It's that lever must be broken on the production line, which is making chimney sweeps in 2021.
Where the problem is you actually have a production line in a creative industry. There needs to be some level of yes, we need to make games to sell, but it is, no matter what, it will always remain a creative industry. And if you're not innovating, if you're not doing anything interesting with your IP, then you just get left behind. And that's what I think's happened to Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I perceive Ubisoft now to just be, they're the golden child to shit on. Now Stadia's dead. Just from my little insular world that I live in with gaming, because now there's no negative Stadia articles because you've done it. You killed them, they shut down, they're gone. Now Ubisoft's it's like when the kid in class always gets bullied, moves to another school because he's had a terrible experience. Then everything, just all the anger and hatred from these bullying kids gets funneled to the next person. And that seems to be Ubisoft at the moment. Because I feel like we're just going to get so many articles now because it's cool to just kick them while they're down. And stuff like all the stories this week about the ball is in your court line. I feel like that was probably just a flippant comment from an older middle-aged man who was just there we go, we've made the changes, we made the announcements, done some delays, restructuring announcements. Back over to you, team. But because he's worded it as the ball is in your court, that's now this article. And I feel like it's not is it realistically that harsh that a CEO is saying the ball's in your court to do your job? At the same time, I feel like it's a lot of conjecture.
I think it is in the context of how shit they've been recently.
Yeah, he's seemingly taking no accountability. That's my problem with it. It's seemingly he's taking no accountability for Ubisoft's recent failures. He's pointing it to his staff rather than going.
He doesn't say it's you's done it. He literally says, "Oh, it's over to you. The ball's in your court to get on with the work." Again, he doesn't say you're all shit, you're all bad. It's sort this mess out. He's the ball. He's literally saying it's back over to you. Yeah,
we don't have the full context about that, but Kotaku, reading now again from gamesindustry.biz, Now, Kotaku reported that Guillemot held a meeting on Wednesday with staff allowed to submit questions ahead of time. One such question read, "The ball is now in our court. For years it has been in your court, so why did you mishandle the ball so badly? So we, the workers, have to fix it for you." Mm-hmm. And his response was, "I heard your feedback and I'm sorry this was perceived that way."
What do you want him to say?
Again, it's for me, this is just him not taking any accountability. If this report is right, his staff have called him out on his lack of accountability, and he's like, "I'm sorry, you think that," rather than going actually taking
that's
some
CEO though, isn't it? That's like CEO 101.
Yeah, the buck stops with him.
It's like close to politician levels of like non-answers. But the reality is that the buck stopped at him when he gets kicked out by the board because of poor performance. So the next shareholders thing, no, he owns part of it. There's still shareholders who can vote for no confidence and stuff. Mm-hmm. But let's face it, he's not going to be around for much longer. Like I think that's the general perception.
Like, we think acquisition on this. Acquisition,
buyout, he'll be kicked out, new leadership management, something along those lines.
I think part of we talk tomorrow and talk to PS, like there's more like closures and cancelled projects. I think that is consolidation to prep them for a buyout.
Yeah, streamline and similar to what we're seeing with Square Enix, quite frankly, as well.
Double down on the IP that we know sells, cut the crap, and then makes it more enticing.
By the end
as long as it doesn't affect Skull and Bones, Game of the Year 2026.
2006. Oh God, Skull and Bones.
2026.
I think either way, so there's a big shake-up, and I think both Ubisoft and potentially Square will be acquired by the end of 2023.
I wouldn't be surprised. Well, I don't know if the acquisition will be complete, but I think we'll hear about it. It might be like last year we talked about Activision Blizzard. It might run on for a bit, especially if Ubisoft and Square are both kind of massive.
Yeah, we've still got that precious financial year coming around as well. So I think either end of March, start of April, you'll start to see some big money movements in the world of business.
Yeah, I think for now, Yves Guillemot probably just needs to get his head down, keep himself out the firing line, because it feels like he's at a point where everything he's saying is just making things worse for Ubisoft.
I mean, and that's he's not like to give him his credit, he's had a run of success until this point. Like he's done some shady shit with regards to like the kind of like toxic behavior like internally on Ubisoft, but like it's not like he's a CEO who just came in for a couple of years and like binned it and then he's going to move on to another. Yeah, so to give him credit, like I think he's just misreading the direction of the entire industry, and I think
he's just a bit out of like he's not in with the crowd. He's just kind of like I want to say too old either, but I just feel like he's out of the loop with the current market. And like you say, he fought off Vivendi, stopped the hostile takeover, and he's made Ubisoft what it is today. So like you said, Rob, credit where credit's due, but I think maybe his time has passed.
I think it's the industry has moved on, and Ubisoft for me haven't moved on with it, and now they've realised, and they're trying to fight to get back, but they're trying to just respond to trends rather than getting out in front of them. The reason PUBG is a perfect example. Why was PUBG so successful? Because it was ahead of the trend. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fortnite managed to copy the trend very quickly after, and it understood the potential of a battle royale, understood what audience might go for that, and now they're one of the biggest games to ever exist. Ubisoft then, like how many? Probably like 5 years after Fortnite went battle royale, came out with Hyperscape, and it wasn't as good as what was already available. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. Like they're just behind the trend, and when everything feels off a manufacturing line, everything's a 7 or 8 out of 10. It just doesn't feel like they're not bad games by any stretch of the imagination. There's just better.
Yeah.
And when you constantly, I think the reason why Ubisoft comes under the microscope so often is they've got some fantastic IP. I think everyone wants them to do well. There's so much potential in them studios.
Yeah, I want to be like excited about Assassin's Creed game again.
Yeah.
Which I haven't been for a long time.
I want to be excited for Assassin's Creed Red, but in the back of my mind is Ghost of Tsushima. Assassin's Creed Red should have happened before Ghost of Tsushima. People were asking for it.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? When stuff's dragged out so long, people better you. And let's face it, Ghost of Tsushima is a better Assassin's Creed game than any Assassin's Creed game we've probably had in the last 5-6 years. So,
if Ghost of Tsushima 2 is going up against Assassin's Creed Red, I'm sorry, Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, there's no hope in hell.
Unless they change things around, and Mirage is actually changing things up. They're going back to the roots actually with a bit more for Mirage, which could be a good thing for that franchise. To rediscover that magic, then take it in a new direction.
But at the same time, Assassin's Creed Valhalla grossed over $1 billion for Ubisoft, so it's the one thing that you almost might not want to change.
Yeah, it's
I feel like
$1 billion. Like, why would you rock that boat too much? Because if you rock the boat, you end up with Skull and Bones for 8 years.
Yeah. Should we move on?
Yes.
So next story. Actually, a positive story for once, because I feel like this week on both this show and Talking to PS is quite a bit.
I mean, when you start off with like 20,000 people in the tech industry being laid off, you're setting a tone.
Yeah.
Pretty early on.
Yeah, I think there was quite a bit, and like tomorrow's PSVR, and like I'm quite skeptical over like mainly price point, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Liza P is apparently running at 8K on PC. So Liza P is the Pinocchio Dark Souls, basically. It's come to Game Pass, but that's pretty incredible if it's getting a decent frame rate at 8K.
Is it running Unreal 5? Is like this one of the first games that we're going to see that's actually running in that engine?
I don't know.
I think that would be a big... Because we are, I think, expecting from this year onwards, we're going to start to see the fruits of Unreal 5 being out in the wild. I don't know if this is one, but I've seen a few clips going around this week of, I think, is it Atomic Heart? Is another one that might be running Unreal 5. Again, coming to Game Pass. Is it? Oh,
yeah.
Even goes to show you then. Squeezing that last bit of juice out of the old engine before shifting over. But I guess it's the kind of the way the industry's gone. And again, if games like this that aren't from huge developers can embrace it, then better for gamers all around.
Let's be fair though, 8K on PC is just stupid. It's just not necessary in any way, shape or form. But it's an impressive feat and makes me very optimistic for its performance on, say, 4K. Because if they can get, say, steady 30 frames at 8K, 60 frames at 4K should be easy. Obviously, this depends on PC hardware, etc. But
yeah,
the thing is, I don't think. Like, are we sure that 8K actually has a future as a medium? Because I'm not really sure. So.
I think beyond 4K, you're hitting diminishing returns massively.
I don't think I've actually seen anything in 8K before. I've just never came across
8K has a future for like billboard-sized TVs and stuff. For maybe like cinema experiences. Yeah, like
the EU's banning 8K TVs because they draw too much power.
There's no benefit. There's not. Honestly, I think if you put a 4K TV in front of most people and an 8K TV and went spot the difference, didn't tell them which one's which, I think most people would struggle to see the difference unless they're like getting close and like looking at the pixels and stuff. But realistically, that's not how you'd watch TV.
Yeah,
so that's why diminishes returns.
Yeah, like me I tested my PC in 4K and like it's a decent like kind of PC setup and like even then I'm like, ooh, this is starting to like not struggle, but it's
2K seems to be the sweet spot for PC with the distance to the monitor because is it like Retina from Apple? It's like the importance is like it's not just your pixel density, it's how close you are and because the further you are away, like the more resolution you need to push, the bigger screen, all that sort of stuff. But yeah.
This game looks cool as fuck, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Steampunk Pinocchio just beating the shit out of people. Like, regardless of resolution, the game looks fun. And it's Game Pass. So,
yeah,
looking forward to it.
Going to do a first look when it drops, Chris?
I might do, yeah. Again, I'm not a Dark Souls person, so it's like,
maybe this gets you into the genre.
What's going to get me to try out? And it's like Steampunk Pinocchio. Yeah. Why the hell not?
Such a ridiculous combination of so many different things as well.
Yeah,
but it works.
But
surprisingly.
It does look
that's a crazy thing. It does work.
Name's still stupid though.
Yeah, it seems like I'm watching a few trailers at the moment. It seems to be like quite action heavy. It doesn't seem like very, you know how Dark Souls can be very methodical. You're kind of waiting for your opportunity. It does seem a little bit more slashy, with not going full hack and slash.
Yeah.
So I think it might be a bit more forgiving in that sense.
I hope so.
Yeah, should be good. Keeping on spec side, Dead Space has apparently 2 performance modes. So I want to just use this as an opportunity to just talk about performance modes in general. Because what are your thoughts about performance modes, like toggles and stuff, for this current generation of consoles?
It's a strange one for me.
Yeah.
So like, I get like the benefit of it, but it does make me cautious that kind of performance modes, like the kind of like the base performance, like has more permission to run poorly than if they didn't exist at all. If that makes sense. It can seem like a bit of a scapegoat where it's like, oh, like this game's kind of like done whatever. It's like, oh, well, that's because it's not in this mode or whatever. And it's like, well, I like the simplicity of console games, just to press start and it runs how it's intended to run, and I don't have to fanny about with like settings or updating drivers and shit like that, which I do on PC.
Yeah.
That's an appeal for me.
One of my thoughts is this generation was meant to was almost sold as this is the generation where you'll play 4K natively, like this is what this generation should be about, as a step up from the last generation. But everything so far seems to be, if you want to play at 60 frames per second, you need to use a performance mode, which it's interesting when you go back to Stadia how much shit Stadia got for that, and the PS5 is doing the same thing.
Oh yeah, but Stadia was whipping by, right?
It's Ubisoft now. I don't really care much for it. I've never been that much of a snob when it comes to performance. Well, I don't know whether I just haven't noticed it. I've heard people say like once you notice it, you can't go back.
Yeah,
I don't think I've hit that point in a game yet, because I don't know. I'm there for the game more than I am. Unless it runs like buggy as shit and stuff, it doesn't really stand out for me.
I noticed it going from Plague Tale Innocence to Plague Tale Requiem, because Innocence was running at 60 frames per second. Requiem, while looking much better, was at 30 frames per second, and it just didn't feel as smooth, as slick, even though it's visually prettier. I almost wish I could have toggled the performance mode in that game. Just
You'll
to
probably get a patch in like 3 months.
And I'm playing this on a 1080p monitor, so it's like I don't need this game to be trying to push like higher resolutions, and I'd rather play at 1080p at 60 frames per second. Well, I can't play like at 4K because I don't have a TV to do it, but yeah, that's kind of one of the things I just wanted to bring up on this topic. Just like, cause I get your skepticism, but I'm actually somewhat in favour, because if I can drop the quality just a bit and get better frame rate for a lot of games, I think that works better.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I think it's just, for me, it's just as with Chris, I'm not at that point where it needs to be
it's game specific for me. Some games I think are absolutely fine at 30 frames per second. I know some people think that's sacrilege, but take Persona. Persona at 30 frames per second is absolutely fine, because it's not heavy action. It's not fast twitch stuff.
Well, to be fair, if someone who's like dabbling in Pokemon Scarlet right now, I'd be happy if that thing just ran at 10.
You'd be happy with 15.
Yeah, 10. Yeah, 15. More than happy.
Few quick stories, I think, to round things up. Age of Empires 2 is apparently getting Xbox's Play Anywhere treatment, so if you have a single copy of Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, you should be able to play that wherever you like.
That's good to know.
It's a small story, but I think it's nice.
I've started on PC, so if I can just pick up my campaign in the cloud, then I'll take that. Yeah.
And I think the last one I want to touch on is Power Wash Simulator. Bit of a cult phenomenon. But with Power Sim. But this was one of them things that who would have expected that you bring literally the Croft Manor from the Tomb Raider to Power Wash Simulator. So if you remember back in like Tomb Raider 2 where you used to lock like the butler in the freezer.
Yeah.
Now you can power wash the entire house.
Tell you what, this Croft Manor has fell into some state of disrepair.
No, what the hell's that butler been doing?
My word. I mean, he's been locked in a pantry for 30 years, Rob, that's fine. But, the Power Wash Simulator games have, like, some of the simplest gameplay ever, but also the most satisfying at the same time.
It's even got the assault course.
I love that assault course in number 3. That was, was it number 3? It was
2. I think it was 2, yeah.
And now you can go
3
clean
had something else, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting. I actually preferred walking around the manor and doing the assault course and like the indoor gym and like was there a quad bike you could ride or something as well?
Yeah, the quad bike's in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can ride it, but on the trailer you can watch the quad bike, you can watch the Jeep. But
Genius.
Why do I feel like next week, Rob, on either Talk to the PS or XPass, we're going to ask you what you've been playing. You're going to be playing. I started Tomb Raider again. Tomb Raider 2. Yeah.
Depends if I complete the campaign for Warzone 2100.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have enough time.
Yeah. But I think that's all we have time for this week. So if you've liked the video, hit that like button and consider becoming a member. For as little as 99p, we can get early access to our shows, custom emojis and badges in our live chat. If you want to join the conversation even further, we have a Discord server. The link is in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. My name's been Richie.
I'll be on the ClickerCast tomorrow night, 8 PM GMT, rounding up The Last of Us. Chris?
I've been Rob.
Wash your manor.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Wash your manor.